intimacy, knowledge, and freedom. Tantra, or Tantra as it's called, intimacy, freedom, knowledge. The connection between Tantra, or Tantra as it's actually pronounced correctly, intimacy, knowledge, and freedom. That's what we're going to talk about. So in the past, I have mentioned the connection between Tantra, Yantra, Mudra, rituals, modes of knowing, modes of experience. But Tantra or Tantra is basically navigating reality, navigating that which we know, ultimately to know ourselves. So intimacy with the world is a reflection of intimacy with the self. And true intimacy leads to the knowingness or knowledge of that which we are intimate with. So intimacy, which includes sensuality, sexuality, sensory experience, perceptual experience, thoughts, feelings, emotions, even imagination, and then a deep communion with the object of knowledge, a deep communion with the object of knowledge, and ultimately realizing that the object of knowledge could be the source of liberation or freedom or moksha, as it's called, moksha. Moksha is freedom from karma. And what is karma? Freedom from the conditioned, separate mind. So, Tantra is just Tantra or Tantra, however you want to pronounce it, is codified procedures for gaining intimacy, knowledge, and ultimately freedom. A lot of people in the West are kind of familiar with the idea of Tantric sexuality, a ritual which is meant to give you self-awareness, self-knowledge, and ultimately freedom from all the conditioning that goes on every day, every moment, and has been going on ever since humans created language, actually. Language became, in a sense, the basis of dualism, and then dualism led to all kinds of philosophies and scientific methodologies, and actually what we lost is intimacy with ourselves and intimacy with our knowing, and intimacy with our experience, and intimacy with our modes of knowing, and ultimately intimacy and innocence was lost with the self. And as a result, intimacy and innocence was lost with the world. And when that happens, then of course there is turbulence in the world. What we're seeing right now, a lot of conflict, ideological, religious, political, philosophical, even scientific, a lot of conflict in all these disciplines. And as a result of that, we have lost our soul. So, if you look at spiritual traditions, they say, what good does it do to gain the whole world but lose your soul. So Tantra is one way of regaining the intimacy with the self or the soul. As a result of that, gain true knowledge and ultimately freedom from knowledge, because knowledge itself can be a prison. Okay, knowledge all comes from the fragmented mind. So a lot of what I'm going to say today might, to the regular scientific worldview, appear as what is called pseudoscience. I've been accused of pseudoscience throughout my career. And actually, let's try and understand the difference between pseudoscience and science before we go into this. So science is a very particular methodology of observation, theory, experiment, validation, and invalidation, falsification. And scientific experiments give us a clue to the understanding of what is called material reality. Material reality. So frequently we talk about science as scientific materialism. Anything that doesn't fit that these days is called pseudoscience. So there's a lot of accusation by scientists about people who are not wedded to the philosophy of naive realism. So naive realism, which I've discussed before, and I don't want to waste your time right now by going back into it. You can look it up, naive realism. Look up all the videos that I've done on naive realism. But naive realism basically assumes that there is a physical world out there which is totally independent of our experience of it. And it's based on many things: subject-object split, the notion that matter is the ontological primitive, that the world as we see it is exactly the nature of the world, on and on. There are many good objections to naive realism, and yet all of our science is based on that, and anything that doesn't fit into that is referred to as pseudoscience. So having said that, let me go into detail. So Rajiv Kashyap says, which one is more powerful, Tantra or Mantra? They're all powerful, equally powerful. Okay, so let's go today into a different world, the world of Tantra, intimacy, knowledge, and freedom. So, of course, those of you who are familiar with archaeology do understand that archaeologists talk about artifacts and how by looking at an artifact, whatever it is, an artifact could be something like this, for example. Okay, so this particular horseshoe artifact is from close to a mosque in Morocco. Okay, now this is not authentic, genuine artifact from antiquity, but it's a replication of that. So when you look at that as an archaeologist, you actually have a whole history there, right? History of culture, of religion, of a period in time, and so on. That's how archaeologists construct the past, by looking at artifacts. And that's considered science. Archaeology is considered science. But then if we go a little deeper into what other people in the consciousness field or the understanding of psychic phenomena, there are people who use the word Psychometrics. And Psychometrics is the ability to look at any artifact, and I'll show you some, any artifact, and immediately know the entire history behind that artifact, immediately, at the level of knowing, at the level of intimacy. And there are psychics who practice what we call this form of psychometrics. There are people who practice this form of psychometrics. And I think what they access is knowing without thinking, knowing the object without thinking, knowing anything without thinking is in Tantra is called pure knowing, pure knowing, pure knowing. And then there's other forms of knowing, feeling, okay, reflecting, thinking, sensing through the five senses, imagining, inquiry, and then going a little deeper into the entanglement of experience in every object of experience. And when we do that, what do we discover? We discover ourself as the source of the entire experience of the universe. I said experience of the universe. I didn't say the universe, because in the deeper reality, there's no such thing. Every individual, every species, every culture, every biological organism, every sentient being has a unique mode of experiencing itself as itself, experiencing itself as a biological organism, but also experiencing itself as what we call the world, because the biological organism and the world are entangled. Today, scientists talk about quantum entanglement, or superposition, or non-local correlation. And again, I've spoken at length about these issues, and you can look at previous videos, but we are beginning to see the entanglement not only of particles and force fields and gravity, all as melded into experience, but we also see the entanglement of our thoughts. Every thought you had is entangled with every other thought you've had. We see the entanglement of our emotions. You think of someone you love, and immediately love becomes a feeling and a story, and it entangles with all the people you love and the people they love, and on and on. So every thought is entangled with every other thought, every emotion is entangled with every other emotion. Every image is entangled with every image. If I tell you to think of your home when you were living there as a child or as a teenager, immediately an image comes in your mind of your home. When I think of my home in Delhi, an image comes. But when I go to Delhi, that home no longer exists. That particular house doesn't exist. The property was destroyed. A new building came in that same space, in that same location. In my mind, though, I have the image of that home and all that happened in that home. The people that came, the family, the friends, the meals, the celebrations, the triumphs, the tragedies, the struggles, all in that image, in my mind, in my consciousness. I've also gone to a location in New Delhi called 17 Baba Road, where I was born. And I have actually seen that building as it was when I was born. And when I remember that, I remember that building because I lived in that building off and on after I was born until I became an adult. So that building no longer exists. There's another building in space. But that image is entangled with both my experiences as a child, but also the experiences of my parents and my grandparents and my cousins and my friends and my relatives, and on and on. That image is entangled with the whole world of experiences. So psychometrics is actually a spiritual science which we can understand through Tantra as a way of knowing yourself and then finding freedom from your conditioned mind through any object of experience or any ritual. That's what Tantra is. Okay. And over the course of my lifetime, I've met many Tantrics, and for the ordinary human being, they are almost like alchemists and magicians, because in the Tantric world, once you become intimate with anything, you know everything about it: energy, information, source, history, the entanglement of all experience and the entanglement of all history, human history as we see it, as humans see it. We have only access to human modes of knowing, although if we go all the way, that Tantra takes us through intimacy, knowledge to freedom, then we have infinite modes of knowing, even beyond human knowing, the knowing of other species, and then ultimately what we call pure knowing, deepest knowing of the self, knowing how we, in every moment of our existence, actually create the experience of existence and therefore the experience of the universe, because the universe is an experience, and in our case it's a human experience. So I was thinking right now of some of the poems I've heard through my life, the poems of William Blake and the poems of Tagore particularly, and they all hint at the same thing. So William Blake in one of his poems says, "We are led to believe a lie when we see with and not through the eye. We are led to believe a lie when we see with and not through the eye that was born in a night to perish in a night, while the soul slept in beams of light." Beautiful. With the eye is perception. Through the eye is seeing. Perception is seeing what everybody is seeing, but seeing is seeing reality. Perception is a modified form of seeing. And by seeing, I mean sensing through any of the five senses. Don't need to go and elaborate that. But if we understand Tantra as it's called, then we can become intimate with any object and ultimately discover ourselves and discover intimacy, leading to knowledge, leading to freedom. So let's see how that can be done actually, practically. When you look at any object, doesn't matter what the object is, this could be a pen like this. The first thing you do is you bring the presence of being into the object. Infuse the object with the presence of being, presence of awareness. Engulf this object with the presence of your own being. In stillness. Become aware of this object or any object and engulf it with the presence of your own being. And then fall in love with it. Fall in love with it. How do you fall in love with it? By feeling that object in your own body. Okay. Feel it. Maybe in your heart, maybe in your gut, maybe anywhere. But infuse the object, impregnate the object with your presence, and then feel it to the point that you fall in love with it. And then ask yourself, what is it telling me? What is this telling me now that I'm intimate with it? Where did it come from? Who are the people involved? What's the history? Where are the atoms that are now present in it? Where did they come from? Were they forged in the crucible of stars, burning stars? Do they all come from the Milky Way galaxy or from other galaxies? You see, this object is the history of the universe, but from a particular angle. So actually, this is not an object. This is an activity in consciousness, knowing itself as this object, and not only knowing itself as this object, but actually feeling and knowing this as a symbolic expression of the presence of my own being. And then I know it without thinking. Along the way, there's reflection, there's feeling, there's intimacy, but the most important thing is the presence of being. And if you are a psychic, if you have access to what is called extrasensory perception or dormant non-local potentials, then actually once you get into the habit of being intimate with the object, you will immediately know everything about it and everything about yourself and everything about the universe. Okay. So today I'm going to show you some of my favorite objects and see what you get out of it, okay? So I'll show them to you and practice what I just showed you. Infuse your being into the object, feel it, fall in love with it. Ask yourself, what is it telling me? And then be aware of any sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, ideas, concepts that spontaneously come to you without trying, okay? What you will get is a sensation, a feeling. You will experience an image, you might experience a thought, you might experience the entanglement of the five senses and even the synesthesia of the five senses. And then you will go beyond that into the infinite void and see how the object that you're looking at is your own formless being present as the object that you're experiencing, but also as the physical body that is entangled with that object of experience. Are you ready? If you're ready, let's do the experiment, okay? So, this object. Feel the presence of your being in this object. Fall in love with it. Ask yourself, what is it telling me? Be aware of any sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, ideas insights that you get. This object can open you up into the world of wizards, of sages, of seers, of Merlin, of King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, Queen Guinevere, Lancelot, a whole world that is lost in what people call the Dark Ages. But it's not lost. That world is present here. Let's look at another object, the Divine Feminine. In the same way as I just mentioned, feel your own presence, fall in love with it, ask yourself, what is it telling you? And then allow sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, perceptions, ideas, insights, inspiration, creativity, and a vision to come to you. And this object will open you up to the world of the Dakinis, the Divine Feminine, in the great traditions of Tantric Buddhism. What's this object? You do the same thing, but now you have to be an advanced Tantric practitioner. And this is a dorje. It encompasses mudras and rituals and tattvas and sankalpas and memories and aspirations and lokas and bardos and all kinds of words just in this object. You have to understand Tantric Buddhism to actually go deep into just becoming intimate with this, knowing this, finding lokas and worlds and bardos and heavens and deities, all symbolically representing who? You. Let me show you a few others. What world is this revealing to you right now? Only in stillness will you know. And it doesn't have to be something quaint. It could be something like this. Or something others, some may consider banal, something like this. The entanglement of celebration, the entanglement of sensuality, the entanglement of joy, the entanglement of intoxication, inebriation with existence maybe. Okay, so let me show you some others. Here, look at this. Infuse this object with the presence of your being and fall in love with it, and you see the innocence of the Virgin Mary, the innocent child, the child born out of innocence, ripe with potentiality and salvation. Right here, the potential for salvation, innocence, redemption, resurrecting the soul through the nurturing energy of mother and child. See how we discover so much just by being present to an experience. Finally, I want to show you one other very interesting object. This is a scroll. I can't understand what's written in the scroll. It's ancient Tamil. But this scroll is actually my nadi reading. Apparently, the scroll has 15 chapters. Chapter 1 is my birth, and chapter 15 is my death. And in between everything else about me. But not only everything about me, but my ancestors, my so-called previous lifetimes, and even the future. This is my Nadi scroll from India. Now, theoretically, the scroll reader doesn't even have to read the scroll, even though it's an ancient Tamil. Just by infusing presence into this scroll, getting intimate with it, falling in love with it, asking it, what are you revealing to me? And you know this entity, Deepak, over lifetimes. Tantra is intimacy. Intimacy with sensations. Intimacy with sense perceptions. Intimacy with emotions. Intimacy with thought. Intimacy with imagination. But you don't have to overwhelm yourself with all these different entangled intimacies. It's enough to be intimate with one thought, with one idea, with one object, whatever it is. Whatever. And then to know that that is your manifestation. That is your manifestation. Reminded of a poem from Rumi. It says, in my stillness I'm the eternal possibility. In my movement I'm the ecstatic, dancing universe. In my stillness I'm the eternal possibility. In my movement I'm the ecstatic universe. So let me actually find for you a beautiful poem that could actually throw you into a tantric mode of knowing. So here it is. I'm trying to find Tagore's poem 62. Let's see if I can find it. Be with me. Just be present. Okay. So here is a poem that could throw you into a tantric intimacy with yourself, with a child, or with your beloved, or with the world. When I bring to you colored toys, my child, I understand why there is such a play of colors on clouds, on water, and why flowers are painted in tints. When I give colored toys to you, my child. When I sing to make you dance, I truly know why there is music in leaves, and why waves send their chorus of voices to the heart of the listening earth. When I sing to make you dance. When I bring sweet things to your greedy hands, I know why there is honey in the cup of the flower, and why fruits are secretly filled with sweet juice. When I shall understand and what delight that is when the summer breeze brings to my body. I'll repeat that. When I kiss your face to make you smile, my darling, I surely understand what the pleasure is that streams from the sky in morning light, and what delight that is which the summer breeze brings to my body when I kiss to make you smile. So, in every single moment, you have the ability to know without thinking. You have the ability to sense. You have the ability to fall in love. You have the ability to heal. You have the ability to evoke empathy and being. Somebody, Divya says, or somebody, it's so astonishing that you can be fooled by such crap. Thank you for that comment. Yes, this could be crap. This could be bullshit. The recycling of stardust through you. Pseudoscience. But remember, what you call science is based on naive realism. So with that comment was very good. Crap. What we call crap can be the source of liberation. Think of it as the West, when they discuss something, it doesn't mean if it's not, it's not. So in the West, frequently they use the expression bullshit. Well, bullshit is stardust. It's life. This if you think it's crap, then the crap. You don't need to be upset by it or try and upset others with your opinion, because ultimately everything is an opinion, including an opinion about opinion. And pure knowing comes when you leave all opinions. That's what the Buddha said. Right perspective is either no perspective or all perspectives, including the perspective that I'm sharing with you. And if you don't like it, that is also okay. Okay, so is there a beautiful quote that I quoted Tagore. I can't go beyond that. It's so beautiful. Okay. Let's remember that nature goes to exactly the same place to create a galaxy of stars, a cluster of nebulas, a rainforest, a human body, a thought, an image, a sensation. It's all modified self. Aham Brahmasmi. That's the mantra. Aham Brahmasmi. Now, if you don't want this world or enter this world, the mantra could be crap. Crap. Or Aham Brahmasmi. The choice is yours. Any moment. And now. So thank you, my friends, and we'll stay in touch. And until then, Aham Brahmasmi.